I was sitting on the back deck this morning and I saw a collection of starlings flying above the sky, a large group, maybe about 35, maybe to 50 of them, and I just watched them sort of wind back and forth in this beautiful ballet. And I found myself wondering, how is it that they know? What are they sensing? How are they communicating with each other? And then I quickly just sort of got wrapped up in the beauty of what I was seeing, and just another powerful and beautiful reminder of how magical life actually can be. And again, this time that's been afforded to us to sort of sit back and maybe become a little bit more observant of these elements of our life. And story by an author that I like, a guy by the name of G.K. Chesterton, a 20th century Christian author. And he wrote once, and I like this, we talk about the grandeur of the cosmos. We talk about creation, and we see God, all-powerful, sovereign, ruling over it. And he talked about the fact that, the sun rises every day, and we count on that. Whether or not we should is not the point. And the sun goes across the sky, and we have a whole new series of opportunities and chances in this thing that we call life. And I believe G.K. Chesterton had been playing with either like a grandchild or maybe a small child connected to him or something like that. And he found himself in the usual adult role, sometimes playing with small children, which, if we're honest, can be boring because it can be very, very repetitive. And the kid's like, peekaboo, again, again, again. And the adult in us gets bored, wants new stimuli, wants to do something new. But the child is just reveling in this magic moment that's happening over and over and over again. It seems blissfully unaware that it is boring. And for Chesterton, it became this amazing moment when we talk about the grandeur of creation, the power of each new day. He also saw the magic and the wonder in the character of God, that every day, every time the sun rises up, we can see it as a splendid, glorious thing. And of course, that's true. But also, can we see our Heavenly Father, like that child, saying, again, again, let's do it again, and recapture the wonder and the magic of this thing that we call life. And as we explore what it is the church is supposed to be, I think of the starlings, I think of the sun rises and the sun sets, and I think of these moments just to reflect upon the beauty and the magic of life. And how does a community, which is very, very powerful, as Christianity has become in the history of the world, a community dedicated to adhering to and upholding certain rules and regulations and teachings and whatnot, how does our community, how does our church recapture that wonder? How does it become an agent or a servant to that wonder? Because as we all know in our personal life, we know when we transgress. We know when we make mistakes. We none of us want to be, finger wagged at or beaten down, even if we do deserve it, even if we need to be reminded of what it is that we are supposed to be doing. But then I'm caught by the character of Jesus. I'm swept up in the magic of this world, and I can look back at my own experience and know that the moments when I truly changed, when I truly wanted to go deeper or become better, it's not because I had the rules read out to me, as important as they are and as true as they are, but it's because I was loved and I was a recipient of grace, and that did something deeper. Read the reflection from Paul in Romans. It's such a powerful, it's arguably, that's one of my favorite sections of all the scriptures, because it's such an unflinching and honest portrayal of the human condition. So many times I've had conversations with people like, I just wish the Bible would tell me what to do in this specific instance, and I just want the Bible to tell me what it is that I need to be doing, and like, just God should, instead of having all these stories that have all these open interpretations, just tell me what to do and I will do it. And I mean, I get the impulse, I've had it myself. But this is Paul's unflinching and profoundly honest assessment of even the times that we know what we're supposed to do. And let's be honest, that's not all the time. But even in the times when we know exactly what we're supposed to do, why are we sometimes, and maybe even oftentimes, unable to do that? And we also, on the other side, know the things that we're not supposed to do. So why do we find ourselves so compelled towards that? And that's Paul's point. He's like, even as the right thing, the specific right thing to do in this circumstance comes in, and even as I can intellectually assent to that and say, like, yes, I can see the benefit of that, and I know that's the right thing to do, he's like, at the exact same time, there's another part of me that's at war with that, that's dragging me to the other side. Sometimes into like some sort of obscure wondering about things, but then sometimes into things that I know, I know are the wrong choice. I might even know how this choice is going to harm me, and yet I find it in some place within me very, very compelling. Hard, maybe even impossible to accurately and adequately combat. And that's his whole point. He's like, who is going to save me from this wretched body that knows the truth, knows the way, knows the light, knows which path leads to life, and still feels drawn and compelled to the darkness and the lies and the deceit and the what we now call sin. This is a community. What the church is supposed to be is a community that acknowledges first and foremost the reality and the frailty of the human condition. We've had the frailty thrust upon our faces in these past several months, but we also need to embrace the reality that none of us are perfect. And sure, we pay lip service to it. We'd have to be an arrogant such and such in order to be like, well, no, I'm actually pretty perfect. Nobody's like that. But do we really live that? And that's what the community, one of the elements of the community, is supposed to strengthen us towards. A mutual understanding and compassion and willingness to forgive and willingness to surround each other as we fumble and struggle through life, so that as we fall, at least we're perhaps falling upwards or stumbling in the right direction. And of course, at the forefront of all that is Jesus, is the creator of the world, the one completely in love with creation, the again God that lived and dwelled among us. And he holds up the frustration he has with how humans are reacting to him. And as we're going to see in a second when I read this. But then he also offers us a profound and generous exhortation or encouragement about who he really is and why he is calling us unto himself. So we're in the Gospel of Matthew. I'm in chapter 11, and I'm going to be reading from verse 16 to 19, then I'm going to jump ahead to verse 25. So starting in verse 16. So what can I compare this generation? Well, it's like kids sitting around in the marketplace calling out to the others. We played the pipe for you, but you're not dancing. We sang a dirge, but even that didn't make you sad. For John came to you and taught you, and he didn't eat nor he drank, and you all said, he has a demon. Then I came, the Son of Man. I came and I ate and I drank, and you say, well, you are a glutton. You are a drunk, a friend of tax collectors, a friend of sinners. But I tell you, wisdom is proved right by her deeds. Skipping verse 25. And then Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you've hidden these things from the wise and the learned, but revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. And all things have been committed to me by my Father. See, no one knows me, the Son, except the Father, and no one knows the Father except me, the Son, and those to whom I choose to reveal him. So come to me, all you who are weary and who are burdened. I'm going to give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. You will find rest for your souls. For my yoke, it's easy. My burden is light. I think of stories I've shared with many of you, times where we sort of talk about, the general frivolity of life, something that, is in short supply these days, but will return again. The desire to enjoy wonderful things like friends, like bonfires, like company, and like drinks. Let's use this as an example. There's just something fun about sitting around a fire or whatever and cracking a few drinks with your friends. You laugh more, you feel more relaxed, more at ease, more loose, and it seems akin to a good time. Now, we all know the potential evils and problems of alcohol, of course. But even that, the need I have within me to sort of make that statement is kind of my point. For a long time, and in a desire to I'll say it's a good desire, because a desire to make sure that people are as healthy and happy and safe as they possibly can be. There's been many elements of life, especially because of religion, that have been eschewed as especially problematic. And over time, these have developed into the fact that in a lot of people's minds, ourselves included, sometimes Christianity or the church becomes boring or oppressive or judgmental. But how is that really reflecting the tone of Jesus? The one who says, my burden is easy. It's light. This is the community you want to have, a community that gathers together not out of a desire to perpetuate rules and regulations and the way that you're supposed to live, but a light community that gets together because we love each other, because it's fun, because we believe in Jesus and see faith as an integral element to a full life. To have the language and the structure, and maybe even their permission to indulge and acknowledge that element of life that is social and fun and light without feeling like, oh, I'm not being a very good Christian. I'm so sick and tired of the very good Christians. And I've said this to you so many times. We should all over ourselves. Oh, we should do this, or we should not be doing this, or we should be like this, we should not be like that. Stop it. That's religion. Telling you, and I mean, as a historian, I understand the countless different ways in which it's tricky to get a group of people, all with our own ideas and experiences, to sort of march together. Like last time when I talked about the military analogy, like in some ways the soldiers have to give up their personal desires, even their personal desire for life and health and safety, in order for the unit to do better. And I mean, that's part of it as well. But the other part of this, the stuff that Jesus is talking about, is like, I'm not here to add another rule to you. I'm not here to add a whole new religion to you. I'm here because I have a life for you that is easier and lighter, because I see what the rules are doing to you. For Paul, ultimately, the rules are useless. They give us language. They help inform us. We don't come out of the womb knowing what to do. So they've definitely got a role and a purpose. But then he calls them the babysitter. He's like, yeah, the babysitter's there. But when your parents show up, you don't stay with the babysitter, you go with your parents. He's like, the rules were there. They served a purpose for a season. But now Jesus has showed up, and we go with Jesus just like a child goes with their parents. And it's in a simple, beautiful way that for all of us that have our degrees and our education and whatnot, Jesus smiles and says, you've revealed this simple, beautiful truth of this. Not to the wise and the learned. It's not something you earn by studying, as helpful, obviously, as I think that is. But it's something deep within you. And even in the church, you may come up against something you're butting up against. And you're like, this sounds right. There's language for it, but this something doesn't feel quite right. Or why is it that, if I do want to be a dedicated person of faith, I do want to be a Christian, and I do believe in this sort of stuff, and the church tells me that, having a few beers with my friends around the fire may be problematic, yet why do I still feel compelled to do that? And we end up in this weird place where we're trying to figure out how to act one way in one setting and another way in another setting. And we all do that with our work, even with our families, but with our friends. We're all some version of ourselves. But what I want the church to be is a space, a safe space where you're allowed to be, hopefully, or explore or start to experiment with the fullest version of yourself, which includes all the things that we're told we should keep from each other. All the things that that's not what a good Christian does. And because we attend this church, clearly I'm a good Christian. And as a good Christian, I should act ... But that's never been Jesus. He begins in compassion and love and understanding. And through that love and understanding, people actually start to, out of their own desires, want to follow. That's it. That's what the church community is supposed to be, a bunch of people trying to follow Jesus and not doing it very well based on what the world says is the standards of success. We are not doing it well. We are not important people in Mountsburg and Westover. We have our little spheres of influence, but we're not world shapers. We're not particularly good people. We're not particularly bad people. We're just people. And what a gift we can give to each other, and what a gift we can receive for ourselves when, I can take the mask off at least on Sunday and just be the full weird version of myself. Oh my gosh, you won't believe what I said. You won't believe what I did. I feel so bad. Hey everybody, what do you think I should do? And more importantly, pray for me. Pray for me that I can learn from this, that I cannot waste this, that I'll gain some divine wisdom. So the next time I'm in this position, maybe I'll do something a little bit more Christ-honoring and not so self-centered. What an amazing experience that could be. Because it's right here throughout this whole book is the fact that humans we have this propensity for just messing things up. Sometimes just because we're tired, sometimes because we're in a bad mood. And I don't know that I've ever met anybody who's genuinely evil, although I do believe such people do exist. But for us, what I want this community to be is light and fun, not in a trivial way, but because I believe that actually does emulate an aspect of God's character. Jesus says, listen, you had John. John was a strict teetotaler. He didn't eat, he didn't drink, and you thought he was demon-possessed. Then I show up, and I'm a lot more fun. I eat and I drink with people, and you think I've gone too far the other way. Do you understand that nothing is going to make you happy? Nothing is going to make the critics happy ever, and we know that. So let's embrace all aspects of our lives. Let's see that Christ, even if the church has pushed away from certain areas and expressions and fun times in life, that that's not the case for Christ. That Jesus is in those multiple beer fire chats, just like he is here when we're playing music and singing, "Come thou font of every blessing." As we participate in communion, as we will in a few moments, as we listen to the words, we will have stuff that's explicitly Christian, that teaches us doctrine and theology, gives us language and a chance to pause and pray, and that's all great. But don't think that that's somehow separate from the times where we're just sitting around and talking about nothing and everything with our friends and our family and those whom we love. Can we, like Jesus says, with that childlike wonder, look at the starlings and just wonder, do you find this, Lord, even though these are your creations, or maybe because these are your creations, do you find this as magical and as wonderful as I do right now? Do we have a God that's and wanting to just do the right thing and then will give us heaven at the end? Or we have somebody who has already granted to us love in immortality and wants to experience all elements of it with us and show us the deepest, truest versions of ourselves. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, you don't get to the truest and deepest version of yourself easily or without pain and struggle. And the actions that perhaps you even bring upon yourself are not the sins that block you off from God. They're the very vehicles that God chooses to reveal himself in a deeper and newer way to you. This is what the church is. I'm hoping in this COVID time, you are finding a relaxed version of this. You can sit back, reflect on these messages, but I hope you're dressed in something comfortable. I hope you're having coffee and wine this morning. I hope you are doing this whenever it strikes you, maybe at 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe at 2 p.m., maybe at Tuesday because you can't sleep and my voice will lull you to sleep. Great. I don't want you to be like me. I don't want us to all be the same way. I want us to understand and love and celebrate and forgive each other for how vastly different we can be. Because at the end of the day, if we're putting all these rules and regulations upon us that this is how we should be, we have forgotten Jesus' very poignant and powerful lesson. Come to me. I'm not here to make it harder for you. I'm actually here to make it easier for you. I love you. I miss you. Enjoy the song, and then let's participate in communion and literally take this light and life-giving Jesus within ourselves.